Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for this afternoon's presentation, and thanks also to the Making Natural History team for including Towner in its lineup. I've been watching many of the presentations as I can over the course of this week and a half now, and it's really great to be among such interesting and inspiring group of speakers, so thanks very much. When I signed up for this talk to do it, I thought I might be inviting you all to come and sort of see Towner, come and visit us tomorrow. But sadly, that's not to be. The slightly different reality now. We're in lockdown, but hopefully not for too long. And then you will all be able to come and visit us as soon as possible. So I'm Sarah Cooper. I'm the head of collections and exhibitions here at Towner. For those of you that aren't from Eastbourne or don't know Eastbourne, Towner's an art gallery is sited just a block away from the seafront, right next door to the theatres. And even though it's lockdown, I am allowed in the building. So I'm bringing this talk to you from Gallery 1, as you can see, sitting amongst the paintings. So this is an exhibition called Art, Life and Us, which has been curated by the artists Christine and Jennifer Binney, and includes many works from our permanent collection. You can see them just behind me. As well as Christine's ceramics and installations, and Jennifer's mural paintings, which you probably can just about see behind me, hopefully, on the walls. So I hope it gives you a little glimpse of what you will be able to see when we reopen. So today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about Towner and about our collection and the exhibitions that we put on here. And about how culture and arts can contribute to some of the issues and the actions that have been discussed during this Making Natural History programme. If you've got any questions, do pop them into the chat, and I think we'll try and answer them at the end rather than as we go through. I'll talk for about half an hour or so, so hopefully we'll have a little bit of time at the end if anyone's got anything to ask. So I'm just going to put my screen share on. Hopefully I've got some images to show you as we go. So my role at Towner is to select and to programme and to curate the exhibitions, which I do closely with the other two curators here and with the learning team, as well as with many artists and collaborators. With the team, I also look after our permanent collection, which numbers almost 5,000 works of art and includes paintings, works on paper, sculpture, ceramics, installation, and also film. And as some of you might already know, we hold the largest collection of works by the artist Eric Ravilious. Many of them are on display here in our dedicated Ravilious room. There's a couple I have to show you here, just so we can have a look. So this one is Beachy Head 1939, and then a couple here including Downs in Winter from 1935. So Ravilious, although he was born in London, he was brought up in Eastbourne, and he went back to London to study at college in 1922, but he was continued to return down to the south coast and to the Downs. So we hold many paintings of the Sussex landscape by Ravilious here in the collection. So some of you might be wondering a little bit why Towner, as an art gallery, is here in a lineup of speakers with some of our kind of conservation and environmental organisations. Well, there are a number of reasons, which I'll come to, I'll talk about shortly. But the basic and fundamental reason is that, as you've heard from a number of speakers over the course of this week or so, establishing a system in which our young people can grow up with an understanding and a love of the natural environment, and therefore with a desire to save it, I think is absolutely a collaborative effort. It's about collaboration across the generations, but it's also about collaboration across sectors. So, for example, science can give us the facts and the statistics about climate change and sea level rise and species decline. But what the visual arts and music and literature can do is really deepen our love and appreciation of those things. and to make us think really hard about what will be missing from our lives if we let them go, and if we don't act soon to reverse this environmental crisis. So I joined the brilliant talk on Friday by Richard Scott of the National Wildflower Centre, and was really interested to hear him include in his talk some quotes by Picasso and Van Gogh, and also an image of an artwork by Jamie Reed. And what that told me was that often what people use to cement their points about the environment is art and visuals. So I suppose that's my starting point for this talk. What can Towner do as an organisation with its rich and varied landscape art collection and exhibitions by a range of artists, both historic and contemporary, and our active learning and engagement programme? What can we do to be part of these conversations and these partnerships? Perhaps it'd be helpful now to tell you a little bit about what we have done and what we're already doing. So just to set the scene a little bit, this is Towner's mission statement. So it reads, "Proud of our unique place in Eastbourne, where the coast and the South Downs meet, we support artists and create experiences for everyone that connect, challenge and inspire." And I think hopefully this already tells you something about our priorities as an organisation. Eastbourne, and therefore Towner, sits right at the beginning, or the end, depending which way you're going, of the South Downs Way. And we see ourselves as absolutely rooted here in this beautiful South Coast landscape. We work with our immediate communities, but in a way that I hope also embraces the national and the international, in fact. And we use the resources kind of our collection and of our exhibitions, and also of our very passionate and enthusiastic team here to do all of this. So I'll tell you a little bit about those resources. Firstly, I'll tell you a little bit about the Towner collection. Here's just a small selection from the collection. It began in 1923 with a gift from Alderman John Towner, and to the Eastbourne Corporation, which is now the council, Eastbourne Borough Council. He gave £6,000 and 20 mostly landscape paintings to start an art gallery for the people. The first gallery was housed in Gildridge Manor, in Manor Gardens in the Old Town. And we moved into this building where I'm sitting now, just over 10 years ago now. The first curator of the collection was Arthur Reeve Folkes, and he instigated a Pictures of Sussex collecting policy to celebrate this fine county, as he said. Over the years, and with a few different curators, this policy was sort of broadened out somewhat. But as a result of the original collecting policy, the collection absolutely retains its strength in landscape and topographical works, such as this one, and another one here by Charles Knight. Today, we take landscape in its broadest form, I suppose, collecting works that reflect perhaps a more contemporary approach to landscape, and collecting artists that might be looking at more political, geographical or environmental issues in their work. Just a couple to show you here. This is Summer Camp by an Israeli artist, Yael Batana, looking at the issues between Israel and Palestine on the border. And this work here by Lawrence Abu Hamdan, who was one of the Turner Prize winners last year. This whole time there were no landmines, again, exploring some of the issues around the Israel-Syrian border. So what our collection really gives us is a springboard and the inspiration for so many of the projects that we go on to work with. But what I think our collection also gives us, importantly, gives us and all our kind of researchers or visitors or viewers, is a record of landscape, and therefore a record of landscape change. I suppose much like Olivier Messiaen's musical composition, Catalogue d'Oiseaux, gives us a geographical and temporal sense of particular birds, for example. So too the visual arts can give us a record of a place in time. Of course, we know that artists use some artistic license in their compositions, but I think generally speaking, artworks can be a pretty good reflection of a landscape at a particular moment in time. I was recently talking to the artist Emma Stibben, who we're hoping to work with on an exhibition project soon. She's worked in really remote locations such as volcanic landscapes, as well as in the Arctic and Antarctica. And as an artist, I think she really regards her role as being a witness to change. She doesn't consider herself to be an activist or an environmental artist, but she's a recorder of the landscape. And that distinction is really important to her. And this is something I'm really keen to explore further and do a bit more work on with the Towner collection and with our exhibition programme. The exhibition programme and the artists we work with, like Emma Stibben, for example, are generally aligned with the themes of our collection. That's not to say that they all are working with landscape, but we do try and maintain a coherence across the collection links and also across the building at any one particular moment. So I'll just talk a little bit about a couple of recent exhibitions that are relevant here in this context. Some of you might have seen this exhibition last year of the artist David Nash, called 200 Seasons. This was one of the largest exhibitions of his work for a long time. We put the show together working in partnership with the National Museum of Wales. We already have David's work in the collection. Some of you might know the sculpture 18,000 Tides, which is sited in Manor Gardens near where the old Towner was. So that belongs to us in our collection. And we also have a number of the working drawings for that piece. So it really made sense for us to work with David at this moment in his career. 200 Seasons, the title refers to the number of years that David has lived at Blaenau Festiniog in Wales, which is where he's based. He works out of a converted chapel up in Blaenau, but he also spends significant time here in Sussex. He's got a house in Lewes as well. So this show was a huge celebration of David's work and of his career. It included some of his earliest works, some of the really iconic pieces, and also some of the less well-known ones, and also the beautiful video of Boulder, the Lost Boulder, which David filmed tracking its progress through the waterways in Wales as it got lost and re-emerged at particular moments in time. And it also included some new works, which we were really grateful that David then gifted to the collection, which is fantastic. So here's just a couple of images of that show as it was installed here at Towner. These are on the top floor in our big exhibition spaces. And this is on the ground floor. It just gives you an idea. I put an image with a person in it so you could get an idea of the scale of his works. And David said how good it was to be able to do the show here at Towner because we have these huge rooms on the ground floor that we were able to hold some of his sculptures. Again, I think it's important to say that David himself doesn't consider himself to be an environmental artist. He's worked with wooden trees since the 1960s, and it's just, he considers the medium in which he works. But such is his extensive knowledge and experience that his connection with some of these issues is absolutely inevitable. And he's also become increasingly aware of the relevance of his work now and how it's perhaps been recontextualized in these environmentally challenging times. He's also had to change the way he works, himself sort of reducing his own travel and his own environmental impact. When we were installing, he told us stories about sort of undertaking commissions in the 1980s for clients where he would happily ship a big tree or a wood to a separate site or abroad. Whereas now he will only use wood from the site in which it fell or was felled. So alongside the Nash show, and in line with our new strategy here of inviting external people to come and work with us as curators to select work from our permanent collection, we invited the Green MP, Caroline Lucas, to be our first guest curator. Here's a picture of Caroline with David Nash at the opening of his exhibition. So I sent Caroline a sort of email some time ago. I wasn't really expecting a reply. I know she's a very busy person, and I thought probably not with an ambition to be a curator high on her list of priorities. But anyway, she did reply, and she was really excited to have been asked to work with Towner. So that sort of started us on our journey of putting the exhibition together. Before I talk about the exhibition itself, though, as a slight side step, what was really fascinating was that in the course of our research for Caroline's show, we were told about a small archive of items in the East Sussex Records Office that they thought we might be interested in having a look at. And in that archive were items from the Leave It to Us festival that we are all here celebrating these 2 weeks. And it was brilliant to see in that archive things like the press release and the associated sort of press stories about the conference, and also the programme and some amazing photos taken at the time. They were just great. There was lots of photos for us to look through of the event itself. It was brilliant. And it really just gave us an appreciation of what a brilliant job these young people had done on this conference, putting it all together back in 1995. It was great. For our exhibition with Caroline, we began a conversation with her. We introduced her to the many works in the collection. We showed her around behind the scenes here at Towner. We got her into the collection store, pulling out these racks of paintings so she could have a look. And gradually over time, we sort of put together a list of works that really engaged her. It is absolutely overwhelming to have access to 5,000 works of art, about which you know very little. But Caroline came into it with an enthusiasm and a real desire to know more and to find works that would get our audiences engaged with some of the issues that she's so passionate about herself. We titled the exhibition Brink. And the selection included works that spoke to Caroline in terms of the content and subject matter, and those that might start a conversation about environmental change, and also then just those that she loved and she liked the picture itself, such as on the right here, this picture of the lurcher. She's a great dog lover, so she was particularly keen to include this piece in the show. Caroline really wanted our audience to consider their own relationship with the natural environment and to sort of address these issues of continuity and change through the works that she included. It was a really important moment then, just prior to this exhibition opening. Eastbourne Borough Council had just declared a climate emergency for Eastbourne and had committed to becoming carbon neutral by 2030. And a new organisation, the Eastbourne Eco Action Network, had been set up to help carry out the work needed to hit this target over the coming years. And I know there's a talk tomorrow at 5 o'clock by Andy Durling of the Eco Action Network that will be well worth listening to. So it really felt like a perfect moment where everybody here was on the same page and hoping to meet the same goals. And lots of what was being discussed by these groups was being illustrated by Caroline's exhibition here at Towner. It was also really powerful to have Brink showing alongside David Nash's exhibition. And indeed, Caroline herself included one of Nash's works in her show. I'll just show you a couple of images of Brink. So this is the final exhibition. And then down in the bottom corner, you can see the black wooden sculpture there is David Nash's work, Plateau, which we were able, the rest of the works come from our own permanent collection. This was the only one that didn't. So I will just read a little bit about what Caroline herself said about the shows in her text panel, because I just think it so beautifully sort of states what we were trying to do with the exhibitions at that moment. So this is Caroline's words. The outlines of landscape and seascapes that have long been taken for granted can no longer be assumed to be permanent and unchanging. We are quite literally on the brink of a different world. The battle is being hard fought, particularly by young people who will be the most affected by our overheating, nature-depleted planet. This exhibition invites you to consider the works within that context and to appreciate the beauty and complexity of the natural world, and to question how it might change over the years ahead. Following David Nash's exhibition at Towner, 200 Seasons, which looked back at his career over the past 50 years that he lived and worked in Blaenau-Ffestiniog, I'm delighted to be including his work Plateau, bringing it into the direct conversation with pieces from the Towner's own collection. The inspiration Nash finds in the changing seasons and weather patterns raises many questions for me about the impact that climate change will have on these in the future and the uncertainty of the next 200 seasons. So those were Caroline's words that she wrote for the text panel, and I thought really relevant to the conversations we're having here at the moment. However, we felt very strongly that Brink shouldn't just be about us or Caroline telling people what they should or shouldn't be doing or feeling or seeing. We really wanted some engagement from our audiences and to hear what they thought about some of the issues. So we mulled over the various ways to do that, and we decided on a provocation wall. So rather than us telling people, so this is a picture of the wall just after the install. You can see this cork board here as it was at the beginning. Rather than us telling people what they should be doing, we wanted people to share their ideas. So we proposed a sort of Towner manifesto that we would pull together, and we've committed to putting together a result of this Brink exhibition, and in which we'll include our audience's feedback and their ideas. So in the exhibition, we installed, as you can see, this giant corked wall. We gave people lots of pins and postcards and some pencils. And we did provide some prompts for people, but I don't actually think they needed them. I think they would have written exactly what they're feeling anyway, but just to run through those quickly. So what we asked people to do was help us to compose the Brink Climate Manifesto, formed from your opinions and voices. We asked people to make a declaration and acknowledge a climate problem, make a challenge or share a call to action, asking people what needs to happen locally, nationally and globally, and then to make a pledge and to commit to being part of the solution. And we just encouraged people to pin up their responses using the wall, or they could just pin up articles or images that really spoke to them about these issues. So these are just a few of the responses. We had almost 400 comments. They were kind of layered all on top of each other. It was like a sort of archaeology, getting them down again. And we were fascinated to read people's comments. So there were some lovely drawings on there, some poetry. It was just great. Some of them were despairing. Some of them were really optimistic and hopeful. Some of them were actually just a bit rude, and we did have to take some of them down. But there were over 400 of them, and we have typed them all up. And we'll be working on the manifesto over the next few months. We hope this can contribute to some of the work being done by our partner organisations in Eastbourne and more widely. This is an ongoing piece of work. It's not locked into the Brink exhibition. It's a commitment by Towner to keep working on these things and carrying on these conversations. So also, please do get in touch as well yourselves. Hopefully by listening to this talk, you're interested in what you're doing. So I'd love to hear from you as well, to feed in or comment on what we're doing. And for us here at Towner, the conversation also carries on. In October, we invited Caroline to come back and take part in a panel discussion here for part of Museums Week, which was about the role of arts in culture in the debate on the environment. Here we are doing that talk. It was hosted by David Dimbleby, and we were also joined by Jenny Waldman, the director of the Art Fund. It was just after we won Museum of the Year, so it was part of the celebration week for that. And if you want to watch that discussion, it is still available, I think, as you can link to it through the through Towner's own website. So that's still available for viewing. Of course, it's also our responsibility here at Towner to look at how we work and how we operate in this building. It certainly isn't the most efficient and sustainable to run. It's something we've been really mindful of for a long time and are making changes. We're looking at how we can save and reuse and recycle all the materials that we use in our builds for our exhibitions. We're looking at our staff and curatorial travel. I mean, being in the middle of a pandemic has slightly put paid to that anyway, but we're just looking at how sustainably we travel now. And also looking at our heating, our climate control, how we work in the cafe. All aspects of operations of this building will be and are being looked at. So that will also be built into the manifesto too. And I do have to acknowledge that we were really pleased a while back to be the recipient of a plastic-free Eastbourne award. Here we are with Oliver Sterno, obviously pre-lockdown when we were all still allowed to shake hands. This is us receiving our plastic-free award. So finally, I just wanted to say a little bit about our work with children and young people and with the community. Towner has a long and established reputation for the work we do with schools, with colleges, with outreach groups and community and charity organisations. And unfortunately, I don't have time to talk to you about it in great detail, but I do want to mention a couple of key projects that we're working on at the moment. The first one being our creative kit bags. This is a project led by our learning team, by Esther and Willow, which began in April during the first lockdown. And the aim was to encourage positive well-being and informal learning through creative engagement. And it basically involved us putting together these packs of materials that you can see here in the image into these paper bags. It included coloured pencils, a sketchbook and drawing materials. And we sent these out to particular and selected groups and participants. We joined forces to do this with Eastbourne Borough Council and with the food bank and an organisation, Community Stuff, to distribute these packs free of charge to the most in need. The other picture here is my colleague Claire and her daughter stuffing the kit bags. We all chipped into that at the time and did our bit stuffing those bags to give out. So basically, we also included in that pack a stamped postcard with Towner's address on it, and asked people that if they wanted to, they could send back and share the pictures that they made from their materials. We were really delighted that a few of them came back, and particularly during lockdown, it was really nice to be receiving those and sharing them with each other amongst the team. Here are some of the postcards that we received back. And I think what really struck me when you see them all together is that nearly all of the drawings we received back represented nature or the outdoors in some way. You can see sunshine and trees and the hills and rainbows, and even in this bottom one here, a frog by Matilda, which is great. Such was the project's success that we are really excited to be repeating and expanding it. For this next round, we've received funding from the South Downs National Park to make the packs even more widely available. I think what's been highlighted, particularly during lockdown, is the inequality in access to open and green spaces, and just how important that access is for health and well-being reasons. And we wanted our project to contribute to addressing some of these issues. Making links with our collection here and using the kit packs, we wanted to encourage and support participants to step outside their door and to look at the trees and the birds and to draw what they see and to share those with us. Reminding people also that the South Downs National Park is sort of accessible and free space really on our doorstep here in Eastbourne. We had 3 targets for this project going forward. They're promoting creativity and understanding of the landscape and the traditions of the South Downs through contemporary art and crafts, encouraging everyone to experience the national park and widen participation for underrepresented groups through these targeted activities and promotion, and then developing initiatives which enable local communities and individuals to improve health and well-being. So we're really looking forward to getting that going. I know there's materials here in the building ready to go out again. We're really excited to see how that develops further, working with the South Downs National Park. And alongside our own projects, like these creative kit bags, I'm also really pleased to have been invited to take part or be part of the meetings about the Jubilee Way working group that Tim Whelan mentioned in his talk last week. And also that Towner is really part of the ongoing conversations with Tim Smith and others about what can be done here in Eastbourne to harness all this kind of energy and knowledge and commitment to making changes in some really sort of positive environmental and cultural projects that will really benefit both nature, the landscape around Eastbourne, but also will benefit our residents and our visitors too. I read a quote recently from Julian Glover's 2019 landscape review, which I felt summed up quite well some of my feelings and some of the work we're doing. It basically says that all children should be helped to develop pride in their national landscapes, their environment and its biodiversity. They should learn how landscapes have inspired generations of artists, poets and musicians. They should be inspired by those who have forged this countryside and whose very existence is written into the cultural landscape. And above all, they should learn how they too can pick up the baton of nurturing and enhancing what they've inherited. And I just thought that was a really nice quote about culture and nature and how that all goes hand in hand and how we can all work together collaboratively to sort of forge ahead with this right now. And I really hope that through our collection here at Towner and our exhibitions and our activities, we can really contribute to and encourage some of that love and appreciation of both art and of the natural environment. So that's it from me. Thank you so much. That's my email address in case anyone wants to get in touch. And I would really love to take questions if anyone has any. I will come back onto the screen. Oh, apparently we haven't got any questions yet, but that's good. I think I got off lightly. If you do have any, you can join them now or just, feel free to email me afterwards. I'm happy to give out my email address. So yeah, it was great. Thank you everyone for joining.